An invasive species is any organism that's not native to a new area. Invasive species can cause significant economic and environmental damages to the areas that they're introduced. Invasive species can belong to any kingdom, and New England is seeing invasive plants, insects, fungi, invertebrates, and mollusks disrupting local ecosystems from all over the world. Invasive species management is a complex problem with no easy solution. Invasive species impact the local landscape in a variety of different ways. They can attack and kill native species, displace native species in their native habitat, or outcompete native species for space and resources. They can also alter habitats needed for other species to thrive on them. They can disrupt the availability of natural food sources and systems. They can impact local biodiversity by reducing food and habitat options, and they can disrupt predator and prey balances within an ecosystem. There's some significant examples of invasive species in New England, including the emerald ash borer, which is killing ash trees, the white nose fungus, which has attacked and decimated bat populations, the oriental bittersweet, which can impact habitats and food resources, and European starlings, which can disrupt predator and prey balances in the region. And there's more to just environmental costs when it comes to invasive species. Costs associated with invasive species have dropped $1 trillion since 1960, and costs are continuing to accelerate over time. These costs include damages as well as management costs, with the majority of the economic damages resulting from crop and forestry damages. At this point, there are 10 times more costs associated with damages than in management and mitigation, but more prevention, mitigation, and management may be able to control damage costs. New England has seen huge economic impacts of invasive species, both terrestrial and aquatic. The northern forest specifically faces threats from the emerald ash borer, the woolly hemlock adelgid, and Asian longhorn beetle that could be on the scale of the chestnut blight a century ago, which removed this keystone species from the forest entirely. Some annual numbers on the economic impacts. Forestry in New England brings $13 billion in annually, while fish and wildlife and recreational opportunities based on them bring in an additional 5.3 billion, and leaf peeping, that uniquely unique New England tradition, brings in an additional $1.2 billion annually to look at the northern forests as they turn to fall. Forest succession is the process of land or landscape moving from field or clear cut to disturbance to a more mature forest. There are dueling theories about how this process works, but overall, pioneer species change the land in ways that move from disturbances to shrubland, which later support trees. Invasive species get their easiest foothold during early succession and can disrupt the normal progression of mature forests in New England. This threatens many species of New England's native trees, as without a successional foothold, forests may develop differently. In terms of plant impacts, the biggest threats to New England forest include the honeysuckle, the autumn olive, and the oriental bittersweet, while the biggest threat to plants is the hemlock woolly adelgid and emerald ash borer. There are a variety of ways to control invasive species on the landscape, and a variety of ways to limit the generation, growth, and spread of invasive plants. These include mechanical control, like mowing, biological control, like bringing in pests native to their homelands, chemical control, controlled burn, sustainable regeneration processes, ensuring that there's adequate native seeds in the soil, and education and community support is going to be a key impact and factor in the success of all of these. Regardless of whatever method you pick, you're going to have to pick your battles. The problem invasive species has simply gotten too big for local managers to control through non biological means. The state of New Hampshire has created maps of nearly every municipality to help land managers prioritize areas where the potential for spread is the greatest. These include areas of recent disturbance along major waterways and roadway systems. So let's examine some of those mechanical control options. Mechanical control starts with prevention. Whenever you're working your land, you should know the source of your soils and manures, hay bales, grass clippings, and compost, as these can all carry seeds of invasive species into the landscape. However, once these get a foothold, mechanical projects are the best source of ways to eliminate them. Mechanical control projects take a lot of time and are energy intensive and require education. These can be mowing, hand pulling, digging, smothering, cutting, and grinding. But doing these methods at the wrong time can spread seeds and make situations worse. As often, once the landscape is disturbed from these management practices, invasive species can get a foothold to move back in, or you could damage native species and hurt natural symbiotic relationships. There have been great successes in community and volunteering surrounding mechanical control initiatives. In 2014, the website Nature Groupie started the Great Garlic Mustard Challenge, and since then, over 1,000 trash bags of garlic mustard have been removed from the New England landscape. This is likely a significant undercount, as the website educates and inspires many others to find and remove it from their own landscape and lands. Education is a significant barrier to controlling native species and promoting native plants. There are other methods to control invasive plants, though. Chemical controls are best suited for dense infestations. Chemicals are usually nonspecific, requiring education to use, and can hurt native plants in the process. They can include cut stemming, root dredging, basal bark treatments, or foliar sprays, and there must be a successional plan in place when chemicals are used, as native rootstock or seed crops have to have a regenerative solution to the problem, or invasive species will again move in. Biological controls are well suited for populations where local control has spread beyond mechanical or chemical controls. Involving intentional introduction of more invasives, this can cause unintended consequences and downstream effects. But there are lots of success stories as well. Purple loosestrife and spongy moths are both controlled through biological means in New England, whereas pests and funguses from their native world have been brought over to help control the species. So, through my research, what have I found to be the best way to control invasive plants in the New England region? Well, it has to be an all of the above solution for the best results in this complex problem. Biological controls should be the first line of defense moving forward, but this requires significant research in native ranges as well as forest laboratory experimentation to prevent downstream effects. Now, mechanical control at professional and citizen science initiatives continue to be the best at local levels, and this involves education. The more people know about invasive species and the more people know about how native sustainable practices can impact their landscape, the better successes we'll have at limiting new invasive species and the spread of already those here. For more information on controlling invasive species in New Hampshire and the New England region, I highly recommend checking out the New Hampshire University Cooperative Extension webpage, as well as the Division of Forestry and Lands and New Hampshire Fish and Game websites.